All right, we are back with episode 8, and we are looking at the art of the guard. Myself, black belt Travis, my blue belt accomplice over here, Emmett, and this is the Black and Blue Podcast.
Yeah.
All right, so what do we got today, Emmett?
Well, we're going to talk about the guard. Yeah. When you first suggested the topic, I was like, how much is there really to talk about there? And then I started thinking about it. We started making some notes and stuff, and I was like, man, this is actually a really huge and really interesting topic.
It's so ambiguous. Like, there's so many areas that you can go with, spider webs, and it just goes everywhere. And I don't know, I love it. I love the idea of the guard. I love the idea of like deep diving into all of it. Open guard, closed guard. What do we do in Jiu-Jitsu, no gi, MMA? Yeah. I love it. I love it all.
Yeah, and we are going to try our best to cover quite a few of those topics here. I think one of the interesting things, and we're going to jump all over the map here, but like I think one of the really interesting things, especially for anyone who's kind of just starting BJJ or maybe just starting to understand MMA a little bit, like back in the day, the guard was like this mystical thing that you saw the Gracies doing, and you were like, whoa, those guys just unlocked the secret to kicking everyone's ass.
The art of the guard was crazy because like you saw Royce Gracie, he would do a jump kick, he would try and kick your leg or kick you in the belly, and then he would like pull guard, and as soon as he got you down, got you in guard and moved around, it was like armbar, triangle choke, took your back. And it was just this like mystical thing that nobody understood.
Yeah.
And you had like high level wrestlers that would like take him down, and he's like, oh, thank goodness I don't have to do this stand up thing. And then it was like choke out from there. And then he did it in a gi, which is crazy.
Wrestling doesn't have an equivalent to the guard?
Not really, because the biggest thing is pin the shoulders. Right? You pin the shoulders, and and guard, like a closed guard, your shoulders are on the mat.
Yeah.
So, and that's why you see a lot of like wrestlers that transition over. They think that, oh, I'm winning, I'm done, I've got it. I might as well just stay here.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, you're winning wrestling. You're not winning jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Right? Jiu-jitsu has a different mindset where the guard is a neutral position. It's not a winning position for the person on top.
Right. Is it too broad a question to ask why the guard is such an essential part of BJJ?
Yeah, it is very broad. I think we'd have to narrow it down, and you'd go, what is one of the most essential, like where should you be playing from when you're just starting? That's a good like starting point. And I would say the answer to that is half guard.
Yeah.
All too often matches, like old school, is you start in closed guard, you learn how to break the closed guard, you get through, or you learn how to sweep from closed guard with a basic hip bump sweep, scissor sweep, all of this stuff. Now you watch any matches and you're like, it's rare that closed guard in the gi, a little bit more in closed guard, but in no gi and high level gi and all this other stuff, you're not hitting closed guard all that often unless you absolutely specialize in it. You're hitting half guard, and that's your transition point where the top person's trying to get past your half guard, the bottom person's either trying to sweep to the back, jump up to guillotine, anything like that, come up to dogfight position. So I would say, I can't remember what the original question was, but
is it too broad? Like, why is it such an essential position? And you said, like, let's break it down, right?
Yeah.
Break it down to more component parts. So what happened? Is that because half guard is like there's more capacity to move around to different places from half guard? Like, what caused it to evolve from let's get the guy to full guard to
people started everyone started knowing what jiu-jitsu was. So the closed guard used to be this mystical thing, right? It was like the Kung Fu movie where you're like, oh, don't mess with Wu-Tang kind of thing. And like, boom. But then it started getting broken down, and they're like, oh, if all I do is like posture up, push that leg down,
right,
and jump past.
right.
Now I'm half past their guard. And if you stuck with like, I need to get them into closed guard, now it's more of a stalling position.
Right.
And like you'll see in MMA, they'll stand people up. Like if you're just stuck in someone's closed guard, they'll just stand you up rather than being like, well, they can't pass. You're not being active off the bottom. They'll just be like, okay, stand up and bang.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have become really proficient in at least getting to half guard.
Right.
Like the closed guard in no-gi really isn't all that used. It's used to go to things like K-guard or like stuff like that, but in the grand scheme of things, we've moved beyond it.
Yeah. And like, correct me if I'm wrong. Probably am.
Totally are.
Totally.
I already know the answer to this question.
Almost definitely am. But like from half guard, that's what I was saying about, or I guess what I was trying to get at is, from half guard, you're almost kind of halfway to the back already. You have some sweepy type stuff you can do. You can get your weight under the guy. You can pull him over. You can do a bit more stuff than just that stalling, sort of like pull him back in, maybe go for an armbar kind of thing. But
oh yeah. And like you can go from there, and that's the bottom person.
Yeah.
The top person can now start to pass it and come to like, they can go straight to a full mount. They can come to like knee slice pass to half or to side mount, or like come into Kessa, or get into like that 3/4 mount, switch your knee over and then jump in onto the legs.
It almost sounds like the argument you're making is it just makes jiu-jitsu more fun.
It is. And it totally does. And that's why people get penalized for stalling in the guard.
Right.
Whether you're not attempting to pass or if you're just trying to hold them in your closed guard, you get penalized in like IBJJF. In ADCC, they'll call you on it too.
Right.
I mean, if you want to make jiu-jitsu a sport, you have to make it entertaining.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing. I think that there's a bigger push these days for that, which is awesome. Fighters are like, we call them fighters, but they're just athletes, are actually getting paid to do our sport.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. You didn't get that even like 5 years ago.
Right.
Now you got EBI and ADCC, CJI.
Yeah.
Putting up $1 million. That's life changing right there.
Yeah.
And that would have been Fight Pass. They're starting to pay people, and they're really putting a push behind jiu-jitsu. And they're not going to be like, hey, boring guy that does nothing but grabs a closed guard, we want you on this. And be like, no, that guy's going to get looked over.
Where you see like the Rotolos and stuff like that are like leaping around and it's action packed.
Totally.
Yeah.
Tackett brothers too. They're incredible. Like it's so entertaining to watch if you're in like the sport. And even if you're not in jiu-jitsu, if you show them an old school IBJJF where a guy pulls guard or whatever it is, and they sit there for 6 minutes, you're just like, I'm so sorry that this is how you got introduced to jiu-jitsu. Right? And then you show like the Rotolo, it was Cade Rotolo, I think, versus Tackett. You show them that fight, and there's like, whoa.
Yeah, what is that?
Is this? Because it was just like, I showed it to my wife, and she's like, that's entertaining. That's good. And like, I think that's why I get like offers for super fights and stuff. One, I bring people in. Two, I'm not one to just sit. I will give someone a guard pass just so that they can move on with
make
their
it
lives.
Interesting.
Yeah, I want to make it entertaining. I want to go. What was it? Adam Wayne. He's a black belt. He's training at 10th Planet. I got to go against him last Skunkworks, and I loved it. I lost, but I loved every minute of it. He just pushed and he just went. He was an action guy. And he wasn't just sitting there like waiting for control, making a boring ass fight.
Waiting for you to make a mistake or whatever.
Yeah, he was like, I'm going to make something happen. And then I had that mentality. I was like, I'm going to catch something. And we went back and forth. And like we got a lot of compliments on it. Like, that was awesome to watch.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of match I want to do and watch.
So, but I guess I have kind of two threads I want to follow here. Let's follow up on the big one, which is how like reviled pulling guard has become. But what I do want to ask about is like, we'll come back to that because I think it's a super funny topic. Like every meme out there is about that. But self-defense, are you pulling guard?
No.
If
I have any amount of skill, I am jumping into like a bear hug and I take them down.
Yeah.
Like any basic trip, you'll see it all the time on YouTube. Any basic trip, once you got that on the inside, they're going down. Yeah. And once it hits the ground, anyone that has any amount of skill, like, let's go a year in jiu-jitsu, that not just once a week, like let's go, you're in jiu-jitsu for a year for twice a week.
Yeah. Maybe you're most of the way to a blue belt or something.
You're wrecking that guy.
Yeah.
And you see it all the time. Like the only way that it doesn't go that way is if you randomly get caught by a crazy punch.
Which is what happened to me in our last.
Yeah.
But
that's one of the things. You're just like, okay, I took that, but guess what? I'm going to take him down and go. And like, even if you fail that trip and you end up on bottom, well, cool. You know what to do off of that, but at least there's not like a pulling guard where he's still standing. He's like, I'm going to come down with like an elbow in your face.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
I think the other thing too about like classic full guard, and man, like, so I remember the first time I ever did a jiu-jitsu class, there was a guy there. He was kind of like a bit of a bully, but he got me in a full guard, and I just picked him up and slammed him on the ground. Like super hard. And he was like, you can't fucking do that, man. Like, and the instructor was like, yeah, he can totally do that. Like, that's totally valid thing to do.
That's a real life situation.
That's a real life situation. Yeah.
Like we don't really play with slams here, but we also go, you know what? If you're just going to hang on to someone, like if you're hanging on to an armbar, you can get slammed. Let's work. And like every time I teach triangles, I'm like, if they pick you up, you let it go. You let it go immediately. As soon as your back lifts, let it go. Move on to something else.
Yeah.
Or grab their leg, cut that angle, take down their base. There are lots of avenues off of that. And like the old school, like where Gracie would kick you in the leg and pull guard.
Yeah.
It does work in a self-defense situation. I'd probably not suggest it because you're not in a ring on a matted surface. You're probably on concrete.
Yeah.
And if you've ever rolled on concrete, that shit sucks.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
I thought another thing, like, you know, you see it sometimes in instructionals, and I think it's a good topic to dive into today, is just talking about distance management a little bit and like how different guards come into that.
Oh yeah. So when we're looking at like distance management, you're looking at like long distance, mid range, close guard. Let's say those three.
Sure.
Like there's little nuances in between everything, but let's look at those three. Like long distance guard passing is like where you're like cartwheel passing through something. You're not letting their feet touch you. You're not letting any grips happen. You're cartwheeling through. You're grabbing ankles, and you can swing them side to side to try and cut that angle and get a knee on belly.
One of my favorite things to do.
It works. And then you got mid range where you kind of both have like they might have your leg entangled in like a De La Hiva, a reverse De La Hiva, all this fun stuff. But you have the option for like knee slice pass or anything from there. And then close range is like close guard and like you standing and or whatever you got from that. And then the nuances just through the roof, like they're infinite. There's so many different little ways. Personally, I kind of like that mid range, mostly because it leads to leg entanglements
from the top.
From both,
right?
I'll jump on De La Riva, reverse De La Riva, and you're starting to see it actually more and more, like these reverse De La Riva into, I know that this is just a bunch of words to like the brand new listeners, but people that understand jiu-jitsu, like reverse De La Riva, and then you come into like a kiss of the dragon, like you're inverting through, and then you can take the back off of that. You're starting to see all these cool inversions, and you've been seeing it for a little while, but the more that you see that, the more innovation that you get there, the more that the top player has to play. And then you look at the top player in this mid-guard range, and one of the coolest things that I like just recently, the last CJI, I don't know why I'd never thought of it that way, was Andrew Tackett was like passing guard, and like he was doing just an incredible job. And then they asked him afterwards, and it was like, yeah, just don't let them put their feet on you.
Yeah.
Right? As soon as there's connection with their feet,
Totally.
they can push off balance or Kazushi or whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then it was like a little spark in my brain. I was like, oh.
I've been thinking about that ever since you mentioned that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, speaking of like grabbing the ankle thing, it's like once you grab the ankles, like you're kind of in.
Yeah. If you're good at what you do, you're in.
Which
yeah. On the Emmett show, you know he's good at it.
You know I am. I've grabbed a few ankles in my time.
That's like ankle biter, but ankle grabber.
Ankle grabber. So you know, you mentioned a few different like guards in there, De La Riva, like yes, lapel guard, scissor guard, like all these different guards. You know, I think like where my mind goes back to all the time is, you know, you're talking about street fight. You grab the guy, you get him down. Like De La Riva is not going to play into that. Like lapel guard, probably not. Spider guard, no way. No. Like this is sport jiu-jitsu, right?
For the most part. I mean, spider guard, if you grab both their like wrists and you put knees or feet in their elbow pits, they're not punching you. They don't know what the hell is going on, and then you just throw up a triangle choke.
Right.
I mean, it's a good way to defend not getting punched in the face, but you do have to have grips.
Yeah.
The lapel guards, those start to fly out the window, and you see all these memes and everything. Oh, what would you do? Pull worm guard? Jiu-jitsu's bullshit for self-defense. And you're like, no, anyone that knows worm guard knows enough about jiu-jitsu. But they're not going to do that in a street fight. They're just going to jump on your neck.
And so, you know, forgetting street fight for a second, what about MMA? Like how deep into different guards do you get in an MMA scenario? Or is it sort of like at a certain point, BJJ and MMA branch out?
They do, but then you've always seen it in like MMA and like UFC. You see specialists,
right?
Like sneak their way back in, and they're like Ryan Hall, leg lock specialist. He reverse Imanari'd his way to like top 10.
Right.
Unbelievable. And it was just, or like Damian Maia, just get a body lock, take him down. And then he wanted to inflict the least amount of damage because he felt bad for the guy. But then he would get a tap. Like, it was amazing. And you see specialists come in, but you see that in everything. Like, you see that in striking. You see like the karate specialists like Stephen Thompson, Lyoto Machida.
Yeah.
You see that at all areas, but and then you get into guards. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, De La Riva, where would you ever use that? And then what if your opponent stands up, you catch a De La Riva hook, you catch their hip, and you like almost like a tripod sweep.
Yeah.
That's, you take them down, you can stand back up, or you can follow it up.
Yeah.
And you've seen that. You've seen that at the highest level of MMA. Do you see it often? No.
Yeah.
Because they have a distinct thread of how they use their grappling. There are people that have like really active guards. If you don't have anything going beyond that, like if you don't have great wrestling, an active guard is going to be pretty hard to use.
Like we saw Kron Gracie get like not just beaten but also mocked mercilessly.
He got mauled.
Yeah.
And it was because he did like that butt scoot. It was like, dude, you did what every meme is.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, that's at the absolute highest level.
Yeah.
Like, Kron destroys 99.99% of the population.
Yeah, he's a multiple time world champion. I think. Yeah.
And he destroys everything. It doesn't matter if you see red. He takes you out.
Yeah.
But at the absolute highest level, he thought that was his way to win, and he also wanted to show that jiu-jitsu, the old school way, worked. And it just, MMA has evolved beyond that. You have to have like an amazing takedown game to get to the jiu-jitsu game kind of thing.
Yeah.
Unless you're Ryan Hall and you jump on a leg from 4 feet away with an Imanari roll.
Right.
And Ryan Hall actually does like crazy amounts of kicks, like head kicks, spinning kicks. Maybe he knocks you out.
Yeah.
Or you catch it, you take him down, then he's like, sweet.
Yeah.
Now we're in my world. I don't have to do a takedown. You've brought it to his world.
Yeah.
Which is one of those things. So it does converge back in, but sport jiu-jitsu and high-level MMA, they are two different ones.
Yeah.
And you see it. You see it like when the UFC Fight Pass. They have like UFC guys come over and do it.
Mm-hmm.
There's specialty rules like no heel hooks and stuff to protect like these mega stars. But
for sure.
They come over and they get mauled by like a really good jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those. What was the one I saw recently? It was an older one. Man, I wish I could remember who that was. But yeah, and you see that. You see how the sort of like the broad skill set of the MMA guy and the like super advanced BJJ specialist. They do well, but it's an event. Eventually, they're going to lose. You know.
Yeah, like Craig Jones versus Cerrone. It was like a combat jiu-jitsu match, but they were kind of having fun with it. And it's like, don't get me wrong, Donald Cerrone's jiu-jitsu is high level MMA.
Yeah.
In terms of just straight grappling, which Craig Jones is, that's all he's dedicated. I don't know if he's ever punched anyone. Who knows? But like not in a professional sense.
Mm-hmm.
He's specialized in it. It's just time. Now you get like Cade or Ty Rotolo, who's transitioning into MMA. Or maybe they both are. I don't know. But like I can't remember who it was, but they are killing it in MMA. Why? Because they have like a forward motion jiu-jitsu game. Take them down, choke them out. But they have the takedown skills. They have this like just a forward motion,
that wrestling inspired sort of.
Yeah, and it's like,
or wrestling informed, I should say. Yeah,
and it's like, let's get after it. And it's really cool to see that happening.
Yeah.
So now they're taking their specialty, putting some strikes behind it, and going.
Yeah, and they're super freak athletes to begin with.
Yeah, like they've been doing it forever. So like since they're like 4 or 5 or something.
That's so wild.
Crazy.
Yeah. What about like, you know, different? We talk a lot about having different styles and like personal styles, body types, age, physical ability. Are there some guards that, you know, really fit well with certain approaches or?
Yeah, you'll see it with like longer guys. They like closed guard because you can sweep a lot easier. It seems you can like throw up triangles. You see, if we reverse it, you see like the stocky guy very good at being in half guard on top.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because there's barely any openings in between like elbow and ribs. They can have a really low base and keep your legs tied up for the most part.
Yeah.
You see it all the time. And then age, people made fun of it. Like when you're younger and you're like, oh, all you do is hold half guard, or oh, all you do is hold close guard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, if you're old and you're like busted up from being on the mat so long, close guard is a beautiful place to just hang out and play and stay on the mats and not get anything wrecked, and like you can play like a sweep game.
I actually see that about half guard in older players where they're just like, okay, I'm gonna go wrestle with the 50-year-old and he's gonna hold half guard the whole time.
Yeah,
which
yeah, it happens. And I mean, I think that it's a great thing where you can be in your 50s, you can be in your 60s, and you can still do it. You just have to modify how you do it.
Yeah.
And you hear it quite often, and like I hear it in podcasts. You get going so hard in like 2030s kind of thing that your body's wrecked, and then you're like, oh man, I still want to do this, but I can't do crazy ass guard pass, or I can't do any of the spinning stuff. Half guard seems like a great option, and then you see the specialty in it where there's like, can't move me because I understand my base way better than you. And I don't know, I love it. I think it's a really cool area. And then like smaller people versus bigger people. Smaller people, I would highly recommend like understanding the elbow-knee connection, keeping everything tight. Don't let people in. Use your hooks. Use your size. Some of the worst people I ever grapple are the smallest people, because I'm like, man, you just don't move like all the 200-pound plus guys that I usually face. The little guys just move so much more intricately because they've had to build up that.
Yeah.
Now, do they have the same pressure? No.
Yeah.
But they can jump on your back a lot quicker.
Man, not to veer off the topic too much here, but you're talking about like Cerrone and Craig Jones and being at sort of the pinnacle of whatever your sport is. I think that is something that it takes a really, I think it takes an open mind and a long time to really grasp. And not just with jiu-jitsu, but kind of everything, but we're talking about jiu-jitsu here, is the levels thing. Like, there's so many people out there who the Instagram commenters and the Reddit commenters and shit. Yeah. And it's like, man, you have no idea how much effort, skill, dedication, exceptional innate ability, intelligence that it takes to get to, people be like, well, Donald Cerrone is just a journeyman fighter. He's kind of like an entry level guy for people to beat up and then win the dude. That guy, and I'm just using him as an example. Like, do you know how good that guy is? Yeah. Like, there's 30 people in the world as good as that guy. Yeah.
Like, entire world.
World.
It's insane. Yeah. You sit there and you look at it and you're like, you're just an armchair quarterback. You know dick all about anything.
Yeah.
Like, it's in, like, I hear people and I hear parents or I hear like spectators and I'm like, you don't know what is going on there, and it's evident in your and they sound like, if you're looking at they sound like preschoolers when they're talking about a sport that they don't know. Like, oh, that guy could have done this. No, he couldn't. His whole leg was trapped and his shoulders are pinned, and it's not working out that way.
Yeah.
Now you look at like a journey of a white belt moving through it, they think, wow, I'm like this biggest badass. And then you're like, no, you're the smallest fish in a big pond.
A huge pond.
Yeah. And like, I hear it from like some of the teenagers, then they see me roll and they're like, whoa, I'm like, I'm nothing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I guess at Dark Horse, I'm the biggest fish.
Sure.
But this is a speck of water in an ocean.
Yeah.
Like, and I went to ADCC and I did decent, but that's the ADCC Open.
Right.
That's where anyone can sign up.
Yeah.
And then you look at like the people that are in the big show of ADCC, they are just out of this world good. But so many people don't understand it.
No.
And
they never will understand it. Like, not only do they not know, they don't know that they'll never know.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy. Like, not to mention the fitness level, athleticism, you know, like just everything, just the dedication to get to that level.
Yeah. If you attribute it to something else, it's like writing. The people at the highest level of jiu-jitsu are writing epic, like, trilogies. They're the J.R.R. Tolkien. They have everything developed in such an intricate way where they have dwarven and elven languages fully written out.
Yeah.
And then they can expand upon that in infinite ways.
Yeah.
And this spectator is just starting to learn to write an A. They're like, Durr. Like, and that's how bad it is. It's like,
yeah,
you don't understand how far in.
Yeah.
And like, some people, like, you listen to Danaher and he's eloquent in his speech. He has a lot of like philosophy behind him. He has a lot of knowledge. It's amazing. But then you get someone, I listened to this like interview with Mike Tyson, and you listen to him and you're like, okay, maybe his speech isn't up to like a college, university, all this kind of like crazy level.
Yeah.
But the amount of knowledge that dude has in anything, in everything boxing, he is a walking encyclopedia.
Yeah.
And
I have actually found him pretty eloquent, to be honest. Like,
he is, but he has very grounded speech. Like, it's very, like, anyone can,
it's not flowery.
Yeah. Anyone can understand it.
Yeah.
And educated people look down upon that.
Totally.
They're like, oh, well, he doesn't know how to use the big words. And it's like, when I teach a seminar, the words I use, anyone can do it. Anyone, I'm like, I don't go, okay, now we go Kazushi this way, or I'm like, okay, let's off balance them one way.
Yeah.
And a white belt can understand that.
Yeah.
Black belts understand that.
Yeah.
I'm not, and like, you should have specific language, but it doesn't have to be this like crazy out there, look how educated I am.
Yeah.
That just makes you look pompous for the most part.
I think, and we're way off guard here, but like, I think
you're supposed to rein me back.
I know. But I think the thing that I have come to like really dislike is, and again, not just with jiu-jitsu, but like haterism, you know, where it's like you get grown men being like Justin Bieber sucks. Like, why is that guy a millionaire and I'm not a millionaire? Dude, that guy is a millionaire because he's talented, he's handsome, he like works his ass off, he tours constantly. Does his music suck? I mean, I don't know, it's opinion, who cares? But like, I promise you, that guy has worked harder, longer, since he was younger, and grinded it out way more than 99% of the world. That's why he's rich. Yeah. Like, because they put in the time, they have the ideas, they have the gumption and the drive, and they get there. So it's like when you hear people say like, well, fucking Donald Cerrone sucks, or I don't think many people actually say Donald Cerrone sucks. But
I think he's pretty well loved, but yeah,
totally. I think that guy's awesome. But it's just like there's this whole, most of the world doesn't get what goes into being good at something.
Totally. Okay, so haters are actually my form of entertainment. I don't do like much entertainment outside of like
right.
jiu-jitsu, but like online, because I teach heel hooks to teenagers, to the kids, to everyone. I take a lot of hate. I'm like, this is hilarious. On our YouTube channel, I get a lot of shit on there. They're like, oh, look at this guy. What does he know? He's just like, he wears like stupid colors. I'm like, yeah, let's play. And like, that's my form of entertainment, is going back and forth with them. Yeah. And like, I've had like multiple discussions, and like, and then you get haters that oftentimes become like friends, or actually just start following you. You're like, that's because I'm probably showing some pretty cool shit.
Yeah.
And I guess like probably my number one, and it's not a hater so much, but it was Jared Kilkenny. I went back and forth with him. So he's the guy that I went against at a tournament, and I won one of those belts.
Yeah.
But like, we promoted that so hard. We're actually pretty good friends.
Yeah.
But online, it looked like we hated one another, and we were just going back and forth. And
that's like, the fight game, baby.
Yeah. And everyone's like, do you actually hate him? I'm like, and like, online, I would keep it. Yeah, he sucks. All he is a big goon that doesn't do anything. And then, like, the people that know me or know him, we're like, oh, he's actually a pretty good guy. I actually really respect him. I think it's cool.
And you know, clearly you have a pattern of hanging out with big goons that don't do anything.
Yeah, I know. That just there you half guard.
Yeah, just we should probably get back to the guard topic here, but yeah, man. We always talk about shirts we want to make, like, no haters, man. That haterism.
You'll have no haters, and I'll be like, all the haters.
Yeah,
bitch.
Bring on the haters. Yeah. So let's jump into the reviled guard pulling for a second. We've sort of skirted around it a little bit. It feels like I think the hatred of the guard pulling, it comes a little bit from that entertainment side of things. What else? Like what else drives that hatred of guard pulling?
It's people saying you need to learn takedowns or blah 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 blah. I do it fully. Like I post memes and stuff of it, knowing full well if that guy's a better wrestler than me, I'm pulling guard.
Yeah,
I'm not wasting my energy.
Yeah,
dancing around on my feet just to know that I'm gonna get launched into the air, smashed onto my back, and then he's probably going to end up in an advantageous position. Whereas if I pull guard, I can pull into a place or a position, like say De La Riva, say butterfly or something like that, that I feel I have the best way to win.
Right.
So there is a lot of hate where it's like, well, you don't know any takedowns. I do know takedowns. And I'll use them against people that I think that I can get a takedown against. But if you've been doing wrestling for 10 years, what the hell am I even going to attempt that? That's the dumbest strategic move that I can ever make. But it's a terrible way to do it. And once you get higher up, it's a levels game, right?
Totally.
He's better at that. I might be better at leg locks. If I pull guard, I'm got a closer chance of getting that leg lock.
I think like where it becomes easy to mock is when you see, like, you know, two blue belts and they're just like, they both go down to their bum, and it's like, come on, dude, like, try something.
Totally. And I mean, if I see someone pull guard, I'm like, sweet, I'm gonna work from the top. I have no problem working either one.
Yeah.
And like in my last one at sub ace, it was against Joey, and like Joey from Limitless, he pulled guard, and if he didn't pull guard, I probably would pull guard because we both got busted in knees. And that dude is a trooper. He went into that and like he was like, yeah, both my knees are jacked up. I was like, yeah, same here, bud. And then he just pulls guard, and some people are like, oh, you should wrestle. It's like, how's he gonna wrestle? His knees are
non-functional knees. Yeah,
like, chill out. He has to go to teach.
Yeah,
like, and I'm like, cool. I'm just gonna sit and I'm gonna try and pass your guard.
Yeah,
that's the game that you should play. If you both pull guard, you get that. You deserve to be mocked that way,
right? And so, is it fair to say though that in general, like, maybe that gets played up online a little bit because it's funny, but in reality, like, kind of who cares?
Yeah, nobody actually cares, other than maybe wrestlers. But yeah, it's just an easy.
Yeah,
it's low hanging fruit. You pick it,
and like it's. I guess you wouldn't call that pulling guard. I like to start on the bottom just to work on my defensive game. You know, like
that's pulling guard.
So yeah, I that's what I like to do, because if I get on top, usually I'm bigger and heavier, and like I have a pressure game. So it's like, yeah, I could make it easy on myself, or
that comes back to building your game.
Yeah,
right?
That's all I'm talking about.
Be, deficient in any area.
Yeah,
and if everyone's like, oh, I'm just gonna pull guard, well, that makes your game always on top. Whereas if you pull guard because you want to work on the bottom or you want to work out of a bad position, or if you just sit and allow someone to come in, you're working on something.
That's a different thing. Yeah,
totally. And I think,
and it's not a competition situation. I'm talking about, at the gym. So yeah. So, we've mentioned, like I said, we mentioned a lot of different types of guard, everything from spider guard to octopus guard. There's all these different animals and whatnot. I feel like in terms of accidentally going down the internet rabbit hole on moves that are not going to be helpful if you don't have the foundation, guard is a big opportunity for, like, all these different guards are a big opportunity for that. How do you, maybe as like a white belt, blue belt, getting started, how do you choose sort of the right things to work on?
I tend to like teach the half guard, butterfly guard. When I compete, I burn out my arms pretty quick.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of people do. So I teach ways to use your legs, use the big muscles to move someone around rather than try and move them around with your arms.
Right.
So I tend to think like use your arms as frames. They should be great frames. Do the heavy lifting with the big muscles.
Right.
Do the heavy lifting with your legs.
Right.
And then like if you need to get under someone, don't just like pull them with your arms. Like crunch under. Use your body muscles to go through and get to that opportune space.
Yeah.
As a white belt, blue belts, highly recommend working on like your butterfly guard, like using your legs to manipulate off balance and all that stuff. Half guard and coming up into like dog fight or rolling under them.
Yeah.
And taking a sweep that way. And then, I mean, you can develop so many different ways off of that. If you're mostly a gi player, start to work on, like, close guard is going to be an area that you should work, especially in gi, because gi is going to be, it ends up there more often. So working close guard, working like your lapels, and working spider guard just so you can start to understand grips. If you don't understand grips and you go into a gi competition, you're going to get worked over. So it's just one of those things, like you're going to get your grips stripped super easy because you don't know how to set them up, don't know how to place them, don't know how to like keep a hold of someone.
Yeah.
So as a blue or white belt to blue belt, if gi is your focus, you should start like playing those offshoot guards that like might not make sense in the grand scheme of things, like in a self-defense or a no-gi. But if you want to be really good in the gi, that's where you go.
Yeah, interesting.
And like my gi game is primarily no-gi grips because I like to play both sides. I like to play the gi. I like to play no-gi. So I'm not going to be specializing in any grips or any kind of chokes or any kind of guards from there, or like that are lapel or gi specific. Yeah. Just because I like to compete in both.
And when you're talking about leading with your legs, something like a De La Riva type thing, like we've touched on that a few times in the time that I've been here, where it's good for kind of splitting their legs or getting in underneath them and stuff like that. Is that
and like De La Riva, it leads to so many other ones. So De La Riva or reverse De La Riva, they lead to other opportunities to expand your game.
Yeah.
So I like to use De La Riva as either an off balancing into a sweep, or I come into a single leg X with a standing opponent, or I come into X guard off of those ones. I guess if we're looking at guards, X guard too, because with X guard, it makes you have to use your legs.
Right.
If you're not using your legs effectively, your X guard gets crushed. Easy to like punch down through it.
Yeah.
If you start to learn how to use your legs and how to like crunch your core and keep that engaged, it becomes a beautiful guard. And I guess on that note, make sure that be following the YouTube page, because I will be releasing X guard instructional here at some point.
Nice.
It'll just be free on YouTube for you guys, because I absolutely love X guard and I want to share it with everyone.
Cool.
So a little plug to myself on that one on Dark Horse. But X guard is a beautiful position as well.
Nice. Yeah, we've covered it a few times in class over the years, and yeah, it's something I want to dive into more for sure.
Yeah, that was actually like, and we talked about him a bunch because he's like the main inspiration for my jiu-jitsu, and it's Marcelo Garcia.
Yeah.
Like the first time I ever like knew about X guard, I read his book.
Oh,
X
really?
guard. I was like, this is cool. And this is back when you had to like follow through with the pictures.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, partner, I'm going to do this, read and go, and then I'm going to move my leg like this.
Yeah.
Like that's how I learned it. And yeah, I almost always hit it at least once, or I like move through an X guard style. I love it so much. And like reverse X leads into 411 kind of.
Yeah.
So it leads into my game very, very well.
Yeah. Nice. What about, we talked about sort of the evolution or decline of closed guard. What, any sort of predictions about where guard play is heading?
You're starting to see a lot of, like the Aussies, they've been playing a lot of K guard. So it's just like close guard, and then you transition that knee down and into the middle. So I don't know why it's called K guard, but that's what they call it.
Yeah. And
it leads into sweeps and leg entanglements. And Levi Jones Leary, I think is his name. Okay. He was on like the CJI, and just incredible. He's probably one of the best. Lachlan Giles is the guy that like made it famous kind of thing.
Guard, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're gonna see that more. It just creates a connection to their legs and leg entanglements still. In gi, you're starting to see like a revitalization of like balloon sweeps, where you just have like the wrist grips and you start to flip them over from like almost like a closed guard or feet on hips kind of thing.
Interesting. Yeah.
And it's cool because jiu-jitsu is cyclical, right?
Like, that's almost like traditional jiu-jitsu stuff, right?
Yeah. And I think it was this last like Worlds, you saw it get hit like about 5 times.
That's awesome.
Like, that's cool to see it come back around.
Yeah.
And there's so many cool things that you can do on both sides of it. And then I guess on like guard, on the top side, like guard passing, you're starting to see everyone go, I don't want those feet attached to me whatsoever. So you're seeing everyone start to adopt that. Yeah. So you're probably going to start to see people trying to entangle the legs with their arms first, like invert and come around, and then attach their legs after. Yeah. I assume just because people are swinging, are not allowing those feet to touch you.
Yeah. That's daunting amount of information to, like, as a blue belt, it's like, holy cow, I kind of understand half guard. I guess I got to learn 12 other guards, but
it's one of those things that everyone's going to learn. It's just how much do you want to dive into it? What are you learning right now? And everyone should be like practicing getting better, right? But if guard's not at the top of your priority, or if like holding a guard isn't the top of your priority, it's going to fall by the wayside. And like, it's like leg locks. Leg locks weren't the top of anyone's priority 10 years ago. And then people start getting wrecked with them. And then you see all the high level gyms go, oh shit, we need to start learning them right now. And you'll see that. And that's why I bring stuff back, because I do a crazy amount of video study. And I'm like, okay, guys. Yeah, we're switching up today, and we're going to be playing around with this.
Any overrated guards?
Worm guard. Yeah, I like, people play around with it, but like it's so niche, and like there's ways to get around it. It takes so much to get into it. I feel that is it worth it?
Right.
in my opinion, I'll never go for it, because why? It just doesn't pertain to both sides of things.
Okay.
So why would I even like look at a specialty item like that? I'll look at how to defend against it for sure. There, and like you see a lot of little niche ones. I actually really like Octopus Guard.
I was just gonna say, like, Octopus looks like it has some potential really obvious advantages.
Yeah.
You know?
And it has advantages in like all forms. In gi, in no-gi, in MMA. Like if you can get both your arms out to that side and start to sit up, you get an easy sweep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Octopus Guard is not overrated. I think that's actually one that people should really start looking into too, because you're starting to see more and more people use it. So if you know the offensive side, you should start to understand the defensive side, what you need to watch out for.
Right. I've heard you talk about that as a principle for everything, right? Like if you're going to learn half guard from the bottom, learn it from the top. If you're going to learn, you know, everything, make sure you learn both sides, because that's the only way to really understand it.
Yeah. And like we did armbar defense tonight, and it was like, okay, well, what is the person that's doing the armbar looking for? They're looking to keep your shoulder off the mat kind of thing, because if you can get that shoulder to the mat, you can probably get your elbow to the mat, and then the armbar's pretty much defeated. So yeah, if you're looking at one thing, definitely look at the opposite side, just so you can play, just so you have a good understanding, I guess would be my unprofessional opinion.
and going back to the topic of beginners, because I can imagine like a brand new white belt listening to this podcast being like, whoa, what? Like I feel like it's good to kind of just bring it back and remind, like, you're gonna learn about full guard, because like, you should focus on half guard, maybe look at these other things to understand what they are, but like you can get a long way just diving into those two things, and particularly half guard as a start.
And you can go forever. You like Carter goes through like half guard, he's got a lot of cool techniques off of that, and we often joke about that's the only halfway decent thing that he does, right? But it's true. Like I have my own way of running half guard, he has another way, and like when someone's getting stuck and they're like, I don't get it, I'm like, go talk to Carter. Like he's closer to your body type or whatever. He has a lot of knowledge there. Go talk to him, and like if that helps, then he can come back to me, and then like we can discuss beyond that. But half guard is definitely, if you're just starting out, check out half guard and just work from there. You might get your guard passed a million times. Is what it is. You're gonna learn a million ways not to keep that. Then you're gonna start to learn how to keep it, how to work with it, how to dive an underhook from there, kind of thing.
And there's so many little elements to dive into. Like I remember, this is a couple years ago now, when Alex first showed me, when he first showed me how to implement a knee shield, and I was like, whoa, you can do that. That's amazing. Like, and then you just do that, you just do that for a long time, and you try it out and you see how it works and how it doesn't work. And
then you diverge from there, and you have high knee shield, long knee shield, short knee shield, low knee shield. Then you can like just the knee into the hip kind of knee shield, where you can like G roll through it.
Right.
It's just crazy how far we can go down them. And like Boogeyman, Richie Martinez, he has like crazy amount. Like if you watch him roll, he has a crazy half guard. He has a crazy knee shield. And he has a great game from there. And everyone plays it differently.
I've seen a few like big, probably a little bit older now, Buchecha fights where he's very much like relying on half guard.
He gets half guard, he comes up, and then he submits you, beats you up. Right? Especially like in the MMA. Right? But half guard's a beautiful position from both top and bottom. In MMA, top half you're seeing people just stay there. They don't want to go to mount.
Yeah.
Why?
Totally. Well,
because you can have a crazy amount of control from top half, and you can just rain down little punches. You can eventually trap their arm into like a crucifix.
Because they're trying to hold on to you with their legs. So their legs are useless if they don't know how to get out of there.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, if I get someone down, that's what I'm doing. In MMA, I'm just going to sit there in half guard and punch you in the face with little rabbit shots.
Well, even that choke that you were showing the other day from half guard top, where you kind of like lean in and push the shoulder against their arm, right? Is that what it is? Yeah.
And like, that's the one that I got put out with.
Right.
Like Roy Harris.
Right.
Like, put me to sleep. He's like, nobody ever taps to this. I was like, I was ready to tap. And I was like, I'm not that dumb. Like, I'm going to have my hand ready. And then I woke up and like, everyone was like, that was worth my money watching me get choked out. I was like, thanks team, watching me get choked out. And like, I came to, I was like, I'm pretty sure I tapped. They're like, no, you just went out. Your eyes rolled. Whoa. You made snoring sounds.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna have to get you to show me that one again.
Yeah,
because you get caught in that. Not caught. Like that's, you get to be in that position so often. With one leg in half guard from top, and you're just sort of like, you don't feel threatened. You know what I mean? You're like, I'm just going to decide what to do from here.
If you know how to like pin your shoulder into someone's neck, you can put them out because you're only choking off one of their arteries.
Yeah. And what about with regard to MMA? I don't know. Do you see that sort of continuing to evolve in any specific way, or?
MMA, like you've went from a mixture of different martial arts to its own specific martial art now, right? And half guard is definitely the most common, like on top, where you can control someone. So you're starting to see ways that people can, like, innovative ways to get out of half guard. And like, it's pretty cool to watch that, because that can translate to like no gi and gi and stuff like that.
Is that like you're talking about like barambolos and stuff like that, or?
Like either berimbolo, they're kind of getting shut down a lot more recently. Like people are like, oh yeah, that was cool for that year. Now we understand how to shut that down. But you're seeing them invert still to like try and get their butt into the air and like get that space.
In MMA.
Yeah, and octopus guard from that. And you're starting to see these little specialty jiu-jitsu things transfer over because it works in jiu-jitsu. It's going to work. Well, not going to work, but it might work.
Has the potential to work.
And it does. Like,
it's absolutely crazy, the evolution of martial arts from, like, I remember when I was a kid, it was still like the martial arts magazines, like Black Belt magazine, whatever. They would just fully feature those like McDojo, like idiots, who were like, yeah, I'm a ninja or whatever. It's like, dude,
Well, it's the blood sport. Who is that guy?
Frank Dukes.
Yeah, Frank Dukes.
Yeah.
And like when I watched Bloodsport, I was like, that guy is the greatest guy in the entirety of martial arts. And then like later on, you like start to read and you're like, oh, that dude was a total fraud. Like hard. And
he made fraud, money, but like a sociopath.
Oh yeah.
And he like him and like, I get Steven Seagal was like a real martial artist.
No, he wasn't.
But dude, the shit that those guys make up, I think I just decided we need to do a McDojo episode. Man.
Oh man, I'm in because I'm so into that. I love how like you watch the ancestry of Steven Seagal, and he's like, my dad is half Hungarian, and then he's like, my dado was half Japanese, and it's like,
dude,
what are you?
Dude, that guy's out to lunch. I'm gonna send you a podcast about that guy. That man, it's so funny. I can't believe I haven't sent that to you already. But like that shit is wild, man. And like, send away for $99.95. You learn the touch of death and stuff like that. It's like just garbage.
I used to have a ninjutsu book, and it was like one of those little, maybe like 8 inches by 6 inches book. and it was how to be a ninja. And then they were like telling you how to like sneak and stuff like that. I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. I am going to be a ninja. And I'm like reading it front to back to front, and all this. I was like, if you're like going through, we are way off topic, by the way, but like if you're going through and you're sneaking on a, like the one of the tests was you had to go through a golf course and not get seen and not be in the light. And it's like, you're standing there and then you can't see anything because it's so dark. And then you crouch down and then you're magically able to see everything. And that's the ninjutsu way. And I was sitting there, I was like, I'm going to do that everywhere. And like, I don't know, I was a kid, I was like, I'm going to be a ninja. Like, I followed that book, and now like looking back, I'm like, that is so funny. I love that I had that book.
That's awesome. Yeah. And like I'm probably a decade older than you. And like when I was a kid, it was like all those ninja movies were coming out, like Revenge of the Ninja and like whatever they were called. And it was like, whoa, yes, dude. And there actually is a golf course scene in one of those movies. Like that's for sure where that came from.
Oh,
you know, like
probably.
Dude, yeah. And just like ridiculous ass shit.
Oh yeah. I grew up with like 3 ninjas, and then the 3 ninjas kicked back. That was where and then Ninja Turtles.
Right.
Which I'm not gonna shit on Ninja Turtles. Those guys actually had to do all of that in like 100-pound suit.
Dude. And the comic books were awesome too.
The comic books were great.
Yeah.
You know that little like they had like a little bit of a crossover, how Daredevil and the Ninja Turtles are in the same universe.
I kind of remember that.
Because the same ooze that hit
Daredevil really? I didn't remember that. Oh, yeah.
Was the same ooze that fell down the hole that made the Ninja Turtles.
No way. Have you watched the new Ninja Turtle movie? I think it's called like
I haven't
Mutant Mayhem.
No.
Dude, you got to watch that. It's so awesome.
No.
It's like all like 90s, 2000s hip hop, and like it's totally really unique animation style. It's really good, man. Like, the kids were watching it and I was like, this is like, I like this more than you. Like this is
you guys got to go to bed so I can watch this.
Yeah. It's really good.
Okay.
I think it's called Mutant Mayhem. Yeah.
Yeah. Send me a link. I love all animation stuff. When they redid the Ninja Turtles, but the Ninja Turtles were like CGI or something like that.
Oh,
like this
yeah,
is like was probably about 10 years ago.
The Mike Bay ones.
Yeah. I was like, these are shit.
Yeah,
like,
these are garbage.
I was still like those guys were in suits and doing this. And it's insane. Like Secret of the Ooze. How do you get better than that?
Yeah, those were good, man.
Yeah.
I was very into Ninja Turtles as a kid. Yeah. I don't have too many more questions about the guard. Anything else you want to say?
I think that we covered quite a bit. Yeah. And like, if you're just like just starting out jiu-jitsu, highly recommend. Like, if I can ever just like tell people, like, learn a butterfly guard or an X guard and half guard.
Yeah.
You're starting to use your legs. Use your legs when you're doing it, because moving around someone that's heavier than you with your arms, you're going to be exhausted and then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And like I deep dive into everything. Like I deep dive into MMA and like I watch everything all the time.
Ninja moves.
Yeah, man. I'll watch ninja movies. I'm like, that's not realistic. I'm going to try it. Like, why not? And I don't know. I think it's a fascinating topic, and it was funny when you're like, well, how much can we really get off of that? I was like, just wait.
Yeah. And I think, a good reminder again for like anyone who is like just starting out, write that stuff down, like, and not just in the moment or after class or whatever, but like write down what your goals are with regard to like half guard. Okay. In the next month or so, I want to learn this. In the next 6 months, I want to make sure I understand this, and like watch videos, like dive into it, write it down.
Especially that if you're brand new or if you're at a plateau, writing notes and then looking back on your notes and being like, okay, well, I'm not actually at a plateau. I am learning.
Right.
Maybe I'm just not able to like see it in the moment, because you never see the progress that you're doing in the moment. You see it as a like 2020, like what is it?
Hindsight is 2020.
Yeah. And that's what you get. And writing goals, writing notes, you can look back and be like, oh, I didn't know shit about this.
Totally.
Now I have a game from half guard.
Yeah.
On different scenarios. Maybe it's only 2 scenarios, but at least you have a game where you had nothing at one point in time.
And Carter and I were talking about the other day.
So both garbage. Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
Just move on.
Carter and I were talking the other day about once you feel it once, something where it's like, oh, that's what it feels like to come up into dogfight successfully from half guard. Oh, like then your brain kind of records it and you're like, oh, that's what it actually feels like to successfully get there. Then you really start kind of building on things,
Feeling jiu-jitsu is just it sounds weird. It sounds a little foo-foo-y when you don't know.
Yeah.
But when you know, feeling jiu-jitsu, like you roll with your eyes closed. That's probably the best way to actually do that.
Yeah.
Roll with your eyes closed, because then you have to
feel it.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful way.
We could have named the podcast Feeling Jiu-Jitsu.
And then we get a whole bunch of comments.
Yeah. Okay, well, another episode on the books. Any thoughts about are we going to do surviving the spaz next time?
I think that's a necessary one, because we've both had encounters with that recently, so let's do it.
And by recently, you mean constantly? Yeah,
all the time with Emmett. I mean, sorry.
Wait, well, what?
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah. I think that's a good one. If you have any questions, any comments, throw them up on Spotify, YouTube, on our Instagram, wherever you find us. We're everywhere. Hopefully, if you find
we're very famous.
Yeah, super famous with all 8 episodes. But if you find a platform that we're not on, that you're like, this is where I listen to all my podcasts, shoot me a message. I'll get it on there. I'm pretty active, and I understand like this much, but this much will lead me a long ways.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you for the chat.
Thank you, and catch you guys next time. Thanks for listening.
Oh, you almost got it. It's catch you on the flip side.
Catch you on the flip side. Okay. Thanks.